Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for episode 4 of Fire Forcer Enin no Shouboutai. So, I loved it. I loved it as always. Won Won Yain returned again. I really, really like Won Won Yain a lot. And first, before I get into the part by part, scene by scene stuff, I'm going to talk about some general thoughts because I watched the episode twice. This is the way I've been doing anime stuff recently, and I think I'm going to keep doing it like this because it's working really well for the quality of things, I think, the quality of my thoughts, to just watch it for fun. Then sometime later on, take some notes of some general things that I thought about the episode after I just watched it for fun. Then go back a second time, watch it, and take notes while I'm watching it, just so I make sure I get all the plot points down and don't miss anything out. So I want to talk about that general stuff first. So I love this shot that we see multiple times of Won Won Yain looking up into the sky and having Shinra go back and forth and whatnot. I really, really like that shot. It looked beautiful, and that's something that every single episode of this show has been directed amazingly. It feels so unique and so different and just so good. The directing is amazing, and it makes it feel like it has this style, this art to it, that even when the animation quality, which is often amazing, even when it isn't perfect, it just still feels like the show is just oozing style, which is important. But yeah, this episode was very, very Soul Eater-ish. It was the most Soul Eater-ish episode so far. It was very, very quirky and unique and different in a way that the first three were a little bit more grounded, a little bit more serious, and in some ways maybe a little darker. This one was a very, very quirky and comedic type of episode. So yeah, in general, I already said that it looked beautiful. There was something in the ending, though, that changed. I'm not sure if this is censorship or not, but in the scene where we see all of the, infernalized, maybe, versions of the nun girls, from their shoulders up was just a black screen, and I'm not sure if this was censorship, of course, because of the recent fire that I already spoke about, that I'm sure, literally all of you have heard about with Kyoani. I'm not sure if it was because of that, because last episode I don't remember it being like that. You can totally prove me wrong. I might have just not noticed it, even though I watched the episode twice last week. Maybe it was like that last week and I just didn't notice. But it seems like of all the things that went on, if that's like a kind of, if it is censorship, that's kind of a weird bit to censor given everything else that they still had. So yeah, it's a bit odd. I'm just bringing it up as an, I don't know if it's censorship or not. I don't know if I'm tripping out here. I don't know what's going on. But it was definitely different. And I'm not sure why it was different, but other things weren't. And it kind of builds up a fear in me that, like I said, I think that taking the week off after the KyoAni fire was really good, and it made me respect the studio and the production a lot. The channel airing it and all that. But I kind of feel like censoring some things in the show is maybe going a little too far just because of the fact that it could really derail the show. It's my fear that this show, Fire, plays a very big and important part of it, and if they have to censor certain parts of the fire and the effect it has, then it's going to sort of derail the show a bit. It's like this sort of weird feeling where One Piece had sort of a lot of blood pretty often, and then you sort of hit a certain point where instead of having a lot of blood pretty often, there just, bam, starts to be barely any blood ever, and it gets it's kind of jarring and kind of weird that the level of what they show and don't show changed that drastically, that quickly. So it kind of just does make me fear a little bit if that is the case. But like I said, I don't know what's going on here. But we get to see our first ever sort of sentient infernals. And if sentient infernals are possible, then where is hot inferno girlfriend? I need one, please. But yeah, I am just waiting for attractive infernal girls. But this infernal character seemed very, again, very, very Soul Eater-ish. Everything about this character was super Soul Eater-ish. And obviously this, I'm comparing it to Soul Eater because this was written by the same person. But this is like, there were a lot of things that were very much not Soul Eater-ish. That is a very Soul Eater-ish character. One thing else that is another general thought I was having is that I love the characters in this series so much. Won Won Yan I love already, but on a serious note, Shinra's pretty good main character. I'm okay with them. I haven't really got that introduced to the main character so far. I feel like I'll have to watch further and see how he develops, but I love Hinawa and Maki and Arthur. Hinawa, Maki, and Arthur just make this series for me. I love all three of them. They're amazing. Also, I was right about like my just guess when I was like maybe the blast powder, and the reason that it doesn't ignite is because it's not actual blast powder, but it's controllable by Joker because it's infernal dust, and we got confirmation this episode that it is infernal dust. So yeah, pretty disrespectful as Obi was saying. So yeah, it's infernal dust. Now, one thing starting off the episode and getting into general the scene-by-scene stuff, starting off the episode, but also throughout the episode, the way that the weather station talked about rain made it seem like rain was a bad or dangerous thing, but then we see the rain later on and it seemed perfectly fine and not dangerous. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the rain is super hot, and that's why it's dangerous for normal people, but no, there were normal people just standing out with umbrellas, so I guess I'm wrong. So yeah. I don't know. They made it seem like rain was like a really bad, dangerous thing from that news report, but it was just normal-ass rain, it seemed like. But either way, this world is very, very interesting. So much about this world. Like, if there are... I had thought if there are sentient infernals, that's got to be really cool. But also, if the world is like mostly sunk underwater, and the stuff like outside of the countries is like just this burning wasteland, what's out there in the burning wasteland has to be full of just wild infernals, which is really, really cool. That there's just this burning wasteland of infernals to explore, and some of those infernals could be sentient, and if they are, could they have teamed up and formed like some sort of evil groups of infernals? I am so excited to get into that kind of stuff in the future if that kind of stuff happens. Now we get to see Princess for the first time, and her character in the scene where we get introduced to her, just the way that the dialogue happened and the way it was really snappy, and I guess you could say that about this show in general too. It's very, very Trigger-like. Like, if you've seen any Trigger anime, Princess's character, the characters around her and the way they react to her, the, like, whatever Angels 3, like, Fifth Angels 3 or whatever, and then, the guys that are just, like, diving under and stuff, all of it is so very Trigger anime. And yeah, like I said, just the world that they have built so far is so interesting to me. Shinra brings up in sort of inner monologue that he didn't mention Sho to the others, so that's kind of an important plot point. That he didn't mention hearing that Sho might be alive. He didn't, it's not that he necessarily did it on purpose, it's more that he couldn't really bring himself to, but yeah, so that's something that still Shinra is keeping to himself. We get confirmation that the blast powder was infernal ashes, and we have a really good Iris scene that makes me think she knows a lot. I want to know what she knows. Like, it makes it seem like she knows a lot about this whole infernal stuff. So she is an interesting character just from that perspective. And I think that throwing in that little scene there is really good and helpful because she just wasn't in last episode at all. And her character is probably the one that's been least developed. Hers is the one that stands out least, and we know that she has an important story, a really important story, because the ending is about her story. But she's the one that's been the least focused on and least developed so far. Either way, though, they get a call for a dog stuck in a tree. I love Maki, once again, and the dog ends up being Mamoru-kun, and he says that he got weighed up into the tree by some passing local college students. And it's because the public isn't really feeling the best about firefighters at the moment because there was a firefighter serial killer, Miyamoto, and he's going to have his verdict handed down today, and they were expecting it to be not guilty, and it ended up being not guilty by way of insanity or mental defect. And it's not just that, but it's also that the government is kind of sketchy on it, because what Miyamoto was thinking to himself was that they can't really convict him of straight up murdering people because it would look really, really, really bad on the fire force and firefighters. So because of that, they're kind of letting him off easy. So there is some sketchiness going on with it. But he turns all infernal, and the scene was kind of weird when he did, but he turned, because nobody else was moving, they were just all standing there still, but it was very, very Soul Eater-like. His whole character was very Soul Eater-like. Hinawa, everything with him we get then when they're going after him is so good. Hinawa's such a good character. And I love one interaction that was great too, is when Arthur and Shinra catch up to Miyamoto, and Arthur's like, we're gonna take you down. It's all your fault that Mamoru-kun got weighed up into a tree. And Shinra's like, yeah, that's right. Wait, that's your beef? That was so good. And then Puspusu Kame-san just gets destroyed. That was funny too. I like the way that Maki's being used for comic relief with Puspusu like that. And yeah, we have the fight then as Miyamoto runs off, Shinra runs after him. And the fight choreography is good, but way, like where it was serious last week, it was way more comedic this week. It was basically a comedy fight, which again is a very Soul Eater-ish thing, which doesn't feel like the Fire Force we've seen so far. It seems very different and very Soul Eater-ish. But Princess Ivana shows up, and her ability seems like it might be that she can boil things, or that she can make things hotter from a distance. But yeah, either way, she seems pretty powerful. And her group, and her in general, I feel like maybe go a little bit too far in being over the top in a not funny way, because being over the top in a funny way is just a general anime thing, but I feel like her group takes it a little bit too far into an awkward way, where it's like so over the top it goes from funny into the awkward territory. So maybe they need to readjust a little bit there, but yeah. The fifth, though, wants to take Miyamoto, and there's not much that Obi can do about it, because the fifth just has a lot of influence. They have been around longer, they have all these ties to these other groups, they have a science division, they just have too much influence to fight on this issue, this topic. We get a really quick introduction to Toru Kishiri, who doesn't seem very important at all, but we got a name for him, so I guess he is somehow. But at the end, when they're talking to each other, the group pose had me dying. Like, the group pose was really, really funny. And then, yeah, the ending. Damn these cute lolly nuns. And that's it. I enjoyed it, same as I have for the past episodes. Was just really, really great. And the best thing about it, to me, I love the world it's set in, and I really want them to explore this world more. But the best part is just how unique it feels. It just oozes style. And it takes chances and does things differently. And sometimes doing those things differently really pays off, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And sometimes, like with the fifth stuff, maybe it goes a bit too far into the awkward territory, but that's just what happens when you take risks and try to be different. So yeah, I think it's definitely well worth the payoff of just oozing style the way it does, to have maybe something come off as not that great every once in a while. But in general, I would give it 8 pieces of gravel out of 10, because I loved it. I really, really, really loved the episode, and I love this show. I have been obsessed with this show, but I've been trying, despite being obsessed with it, I've been trying not to watch too many people's videos on it other than myself, trying not to get too involved until I watch the rest, because I don't want to spoil myself, but though I'm obsessed with it, I don't want to go too far and watch so much about it that I kind of get burnt out on it. So Yeah, I've been trying to hold myself back even though I've been so into this show. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Like if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this episode and what you thought of my thoughts on it and all that. Subscribe for more. Fire Force much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. If you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us there, then just ask it. I can give you a link. It's free and open for anyone. And if you want to help support the channel or vote on other series to cover on the channel, / suggest other series to cover on the channel, then feel free to help the channel out on Patreon. There will be a link in the description. But yeah, suggestions and stuff are always like good and open for anyone. It's just I'm doing a separate thing on Sundays now that patrons will get to vote on. But yeah, if you want to join on Patreon for that, then go check that out. Link in the description as always. So yeah, that's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.